Hey everybody, welcome back to the Calibrate Tools and DIY channel. Hope everybody's doing good. Man, it's hot on the west side over here in Cali. That's where I'm at right now. Yeah, the sun's out, and man, it's sometimes you just feel like jumping into the ocean or something like that. But luckily, we have an ocean on this side, and I feel sorry for anybody who doesn't have that. But I'm sure you got something wherever you live at. That's good enough for you. Over here on this side, we got the mountains, the beaches, the deserts, all that. That's the good thing about the West Coast that I like. Not saying I'm gonna be here forever, but it's been good for the last 20 plus years. Anyway, guys, we're gonna dive right into the topic: building men. Why tools and trades are true leadership. Just to stay in line with the theme of the channel. Yeah, guys, we got a crisis. We got a crisis out here in our communities with our young men. And I'm not saying all of them, but a good portion of them seem, lost, right? And that's all across the nation. And part of me creating this channel was to at least provide a beacon of light, right? In the form of tools, in the form of trades, and all that information that I give to at least, give some kind of guidance, right? Because once again, like I stress all the time, everybody's not meant to go to college. Everybody's not going that route. But what are they going to do if they don't have anything to focus on? And I think one of the best educational channels outside of college is the trades and so forth, learning a skill and all of that. And that's why that's one of the big reasons I created this channel. But when I go out there in the world, you got to observe that there is a crisis going on with our young men, not having that leadership, not having that guidance. And we know that I don't care how hard you are, if whatever you consider yourself a hardened criminal, a hardened gangster, whatever, every man is looking for some kind of leadership, some kind of guidance. Nobody knows it all. You could be 50, 60 years old and still looking for guidance. And, if they don't get that, right? If these young men don't get that, guess what? They're going to seek it elsewhere, right? They're going to seek it in places that are, not in their best interest, right? That's why you have gangs, which originally in our community, in the African American community, gangs were meant to protect the community from the racism that was constantly being, our community was being bombarded with that. So we formed these groups, and then somehow they morphed into gangs, and they got corrupted in a sense. And so we have what we have today, right? But a lot of, like I said, a lot of these young men, they gravitate there because they don't have the guidance that they need to steer them in the right direction, in the form of, say, a father figure or a male figure or group of males that can guide these young males into more constructive endeavors. You know what I mean? So one of the reasons, like I said, I created this channel is to, in a sense, be that male figure that they could somewhat identify with when they see me on this channel, and say, hey, he's talking about something that most, we don't see a lot of guys that look like me talking about this stuff on YouTube. Let me see what he's talking about. Now, I don't know how much of an effect that I've had on a lot of young men, but I can only hope that I am having some kind of an effect just being on here. And, but that is one of the motivating factors that, caused me to create this channel in the first place, not just to talk about tools and all that. I had a vision to be, an example of sorts, and if you want to call it a leadership role, I'll take that too. You know what I'm saying? Because We have a shortage of leaders out there. And when you say leader, how do you define that? You know, when people think of leaders, they think of the one out front, you know what I'm saying, or standing on the podium preaching or talking, or you know, the face of the movement and all of that. And that's not what I'm talking about. In my opinion, everybody can be a leader, right? Every man can be a leader. Every man can provide some kind of guidance. Instead of looking at these young men out here that you know need guidance, instead of looking at them as a threat or, you know, unredeemable people, that, you know, see them as you, and approach them and talk to them whenever you can to teach them what you know. I don't care, you know, everybody has some kind of skill, some kind of knowledge that they can impart. They can tell these youths. I used to do a lot of community work several years ago. And I was really out there in the community, right? In communities where that had reputations, you know, Watts, Compton, all these places. I was, you know, Inglewood. I'm in Inglewood right now, actually. But, you know, I was affiliated with some heavy hitters in the community who have since long passed. But, you know, we've touched a lot of lives, and I kind of missed that because I kind of got away from it. But I can only hope that, you know, one day I'll get back into it, because I'm all about that grassroots, you know, touch and feel kind of thing, right? Getting out there to meet people and see how they're living, because, you know, we underestimate the impact words can have on an individual when they see that you actually care about their well-being, right? A lot of us talk a lot, right? We get on the internet and we talk and we just rant and rave, and we kind of, you know, we want to portray this image of, you know, this person that, you know, is all of that. Yeah. But are you actually getting out there in the community? I'm not saying you got to do it all the time, but are you getting out there in the community and actually getting face to face with people, right? With people that most people won't even want to deal with, right? Forming those relationships, because, you know, you could preach all day about do this and do that, but until they actually see that you care, until they actually see that you can step into their world, right? Without hesitation, without fear, because they can smell that too. Then you're just another face on the internet talking a good game. All right. Where the rubber meets the road is when you actually go out there in the community. And that could be feeding the homeless. That could be doing community development work, talking to, just doing all the ex felons or whatever you need to do. I used to work at a nonprofit where we used to teach ex-felons and other folks as well how to weld. We used to give them a trade. And, you know, that was one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had in my life, because not only did I get a chance to teach them a trade, right? I also got a chance to hear their stories, make friends with them, relate. You know, these are the intangible things that most people wouldn't consider leadership, right? Leadership is not all about pointing the finger and say, hey, go there, do that, and all of that. No, it's sometimes leadership is also learning how to listen to people, right? Learning how to hear their pain, hear their story, right? And sometimes that's all people need. I've talked to grown men that actually I've seen them cry in front of my eyes about the stories that they had to tell me about how they got to where they were, right? And hearing them out and also teaching them a skill at the same time, showing them that you care about them. That's leadership, okay? It's not like I said, I'm talking about a different form of leadership, right? Showing a young man how to use a power tool, right? Showing them how to read the blueprints, right? And it doesn't have to be trade related. It can be anything that, you know, you can be in the IT world. You can be, you can be an architect, right? I try to interview people on this channel whenever I get the chance to, who are masters of their discipline. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the building trades. I try to keep it around that. But, there's an architect that I'm getting ready to bring on the channel. Very intelligent brother. I want to expose these, young men, if they're watching me, hopefully, to people that they probably wouldn't even, be around if they didn't see my channel. Okay. People that look like them, right? Because you have to understand, the African-American male, and this is not throwing a pity party or anything like that. And if you feel it is, then you can move along. Has to deal with the perception, so many negative perceptions of him, right? When he steps out of his house every day. So it's my duty and obligation to dispel that and give him the strength that he needs to tackle the evil forces in this world that want to see him defeated, right? He will not be defeated, right? Not on my watch, okay? If I have anything to do about it, he will not be defeated. I will uplift him at every turn, every chance I get. I am my brother's keeper. That doesn't mean I condone ignorant behavior, but if he needs somebody to support him, then that's who I am. Okay. I don't have to be on TV, right? I don't have to be the one out front, but I will be the one to pull that brother aside and say, hey man, I got you, right? What do you need? Hey, let me point you in this direction. Hey, let me give you this resource. Make this call tomorrow. Let me see what I can do. That kind of thing. That's leadership, right? And that's the kind of guidance that I'm talking about. So a lot of young men, they grow up without a clear picture of what a man is, right? I mean, I had a father, like, and the important thing about having a father figure is that father figure consciously and unconsciously is the prime example. He models the image of what a man is to a child, especially a young man coming up in the home, and a young lady as well, right? And if that young man or young lady doesn't have that, right, there's going to be some short circuiting going on as they get older because they don't have a good reference point. Doesn't mean the man has to be perfect, right? Doesn't mean that father figure is a perfect person. No, that's not what I'm saying. But they have to have a reference point, that child, right? In order to be able to go out there in the world as they get older and see what actually is the man that they should, actually be around, what groups or affiliations they should make. If they don't have the proper reference point, they're going to go for whatever or whoever and may land up in places that they didn't want to land up or end up. And unfortunately, that's what's happened. Okay, that's what's happened, especially in our community. And of course, there are external forces that encourage this, the dysfunction in our community, right? So these forces are not going anywhere. Let's understand that. But it's up to us as the men in the community, I'm speaking to the men right now, to protect the futures of our next generations. And collectively, we can do that. Okay. How do we do that? We just model what a productive male figure should be, right? We just have to model that, right, as best we can, which means that we have to look within ourselves and see what we need to clean up so we can be that, because our communities are at stake here, right? Our communities, the future of our children and our communities are at stake. We already see this recent generation. We see what's happened to them, right? Everybody's on their phone. Everybody's playing video games. Everybody's, everybody's trying to get the fast route, the fast way out, right? Fast money, fast cars, fast women. Okay, that's destroyed our young men. That's where the jails are packed with them right now. The prisons are packed with them. Okay, so we need to change that. We need to change that trajectory here, and we can't depend on a government program to do that, right? There's no government program that's going to take the place of us doing what we have to do as men and guiding our young men, being the example for our young men and women, because it's getting hectic out here. Our lives, our very lives, are at stake, right? The value of our lives are not even. I mean, they don't value our lives. You understand what I'm saying? Just turn on the news. It's pretty obvious. And one of the reasons is because we don't value them. We don't value our own lives, right? Because we've been attacked from all sides, still being attacked. Okay, what are we doing about it here? Are we just crying about it, or are we actually going to do something about it? Are we actually going to build institutions that can protect and develop our own people? Okay, are we circulating the dollar in our community? Or are we just so fast to go spend it on the next whatever brand or fad, or right? We can't, if we don't produce an economic fortress, so to speak, just like all these other communities do, then we're done for. You understand? We can't talk about protecting and building for our community if we can't even protect our own money. Right? Because we're leaking it everywhere else, but within our own community. We can't teach our young men how to build when we don't yet have our own land to build on. Right? So, this channel is all about tools, how to use them and all of that. And that's pretty much a low barrier to entry to as far as attacking this problem. I figure, hey, listen, I'll teach young men how to use tools, teach them, give them an idea of what the trades are, expose them to that whenever I can on the channel and so all that, and the work I do outside of this channel, to at least give them an idea, or start to condition their minds to be builders instead of consumers, right? If you have a nation of young men that only consume, then in my opinion, you just have a nation of, you might as well say, women. All right? Because that's what women do. They consume, right? They consume. Men, we're supposed to be builders, right? But if you have all the young men out here aspiring just to consume this and consume that and look rich on the internet and flaunt your money on the internet all day long, squandering your wealth on things that won't move the community forward, then we failed as far as leadership goes, right? We failed. Okay. Anyway, guys, let's see here. All right. So what happens when you teach a young kid how to, say, use a tool or build a project, repair something, build something from scratch? Well, let me tell you what happens within that young man. Okay. He realizes that he's not a consumer. He can actually build something from scratch, right? That actually helps other people. That's such a motivational, impulse that starts to grow the more he does it. The more we show them how to do certain things, right? in the trades, whatever it is, the more confidence he gets in himself, right? To do other bigger, better things. Okay. And this is what we want. We want a nation of young men that are builders, right? That can conceptualize ideas and create, right? Not just consume, but actually create. Okay. They want to kill that in our young men, right? They want to kill that desire to build, right? And we can't let that happen. So we have to be the leaders to teach our young men, even before they even start thinking about possibly going to school, going to college and all of that. We got to expose them to the trades. We got to expose them to tools, right? We got to give them a vision before we send them out into the world. And we also got to prepare them and warn them of what's waiting for them when they get out those doors, right? That it's not all peaches and cream out there. I think, not to digress, but when we don't teach them about the horrors of the world, right, the evils that will befall them if they're not careful, then we're failing them. Okay, we're failing them, right? We need to teach them that trying to get away from your community, all right, see, so you can go be amongst others who really don't care about you. That's not the way to go, right? Teach them to hold on to their identity and who they are and where they come from, even if it's not the best. I know our communities are not always the best, right? Yet it's celebrated all over the world for our culture and our music and this and all that. But, we need to teach them to hang on to that, the core of who they are. But you can't model that to them if you're not around. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of our men are incarcerated, right? Or they're having identity issues. And that's all a result of external attacks. And I don't know why more people are not talking about this stuff in my, but it is what it is. So we have to change that. So if you're listening to the sound of my voice, I want you to think about it. How can I change a young man's life today or tomorrow? Right? One that I see on the street or somewhere. You may see a group of them walking down the street. How can I give them a word of encouragement, a word of wisdom, or even just ask them, hey, what do you want to be when you get older, or something like that? What kind of goals do you have? When you ask them these questions, you can kind of see that their eyes light up and say, oh, this brother actually cares about me. Because they could be going home to an environment where they're not even respected as young men. They're not even guided. You know what I mean? And yet have to come out into a world that hates them already. What's that going to do to their psychology to have to deal with that day in, day out? So we have to show them that we do care if we want to produce strong, capable men that can actually lead their communities, right? So teaching them a trade, teaching them about tools is one way to do it. I just said one way. It's not the only way, but it's a good start. Because I remember when I was a youngster, and my pops would be in the garage working on something and building something, I would be in there with him, right? Helping him out, handing him this, hey, let me, all that. And maybe that's one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing now on this channel, because it left an impact on me. That's, it was a bonding moment. He wasn't a talkative man, right? But it's not always about talking. It's about being around that kind of energy. You understand? Watching and learning, right? So, if we can, if you're a tradesman out there and there's young men in your neighborhood, they need guidance, right? They need guidance. They don't have to grow up to be a tradesman, but just to have them around to impart that male energy on them to say, hey, listen, this is how you build this is how you do that. You could change that kid's life, because there's so many other influences that they have to battle with on a daily basis that's pulling them here, pulling them there. So it's up to you to be that major influences to make sure that they don't get pulled over there and end up in a worse situation. So let me see. So yeah, leadership is not always showy, right? Once again, it's just about inserting yourself in situations whenever you can and giving that helping hand, right? To these young men out here, especially in my community, all right? Because there is a war going on against them, and whether you admit it or not. And I think it's a dang shame that we're not doing anything about it as the grown older men in the community who just say, oh man, another one gone. No, we should be doing more than that, right? We should be doing much more than that. Okay. So whenever you can, lend a helping hand or a helping or whatever words you can give them to encourage them, because you don't know how much that means to them, to show for you to show that you actually care about their well-being, because a lot of times nobody does. So if you're a young brother out there, I want you to know I care about you. Okay. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this channel. I created this channel. If you are a young African-American male, black male, you got me right here. Okay. Watch the channel, subscribe. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two. Maybe you could kind of guide you in a direction where you say, hey, look, maybe I want to get into that. So I'm gonna do the best I can to support you on the channel, give you props, okay? Because I know most people out there in the world don't give a damn about you, but I do, okay? Remember that. Anyway, hope you got something from this. I'll see you in the next one.